The average person checks their phone nearly 100 times a day. Gen X checked a payphone. Here's the real question. Did technology make us smarter or just more dependent? There was a generation that navigated cities without GPS, dated without algorithms, got lost without panic, and made mistakes without a delete button. And they didn't do it to be tough. They did it because there was no alternative. In this video, we're going to explore three things. First, how analog life trained the brain differently. Second, how friction built emotional resilience. And third, how we can intentionally rebuild those strengths today. Because maybe the real difference between Gen X and us isn't personality, it's environment. Let's start with something simple, getting lost.
Before GPS, your brain was the navigation system. Neuroscientists at University College London found that spatial navigation activates the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and learning. London taxi drivers who memorize thousands of streets actually show enlarged hippocampal regions. Now compare that to today. When we rely on GPS constantly, we engage in something called cognitive offloading, outsourcing memory to devices. Mark is 22, driving across state lines with handwritten directions. He misses an exit. There's no recalculating voice. So he pulls over, studies the map, mentally reconstructs the route. That mental strain, that's neuroplasticity in action. Getting lost wasn't inconvenience, it was brain training. When was the last time you navigated somewhere without digital help? But maps weren't the only thing Gen X carried internally. They carried social courage too.
Before swiping, there was approaching. Angela is 19. She likes someone from her class. There's no DM, no curated profile. She calls his house phone and hopes his parents don't answer. Her heart is racing. This wasn't optimized dating. It was exposure therapy. Repeated real-world interaction reduces social anxiety over time. But dating apps change the reward system. They trigger dopamine spikes through variable rewards, similar to slot machines. And then there's the paradox of choice. When options increase, satisfaction often decreases. Gen X didn't filter through 200 profiles. They developed depth through proximity. Rejection happened face-to-face, and because it was embodied, it became survivable. Would you rather risk awkward silence or hide behind a screen? But courage isn't just about romance. It's also about waiting.
There were no typing bubbles, no read receipts. You left a message and waited. The famous delayed gratification studies at Stanford University showed that the ability to delay reward predicts emotional regulation later in life. Gen X practiced this daily. Jason checks the answering machine after school. Maybe there's a message, maybe there isn't. And if there isn't, he waits another day. Today, silence feels threatening. Our brains have adapted to expect instant feedback. Every notification becomes a small dopamine spike. When it doesn't come, anxiety rises. But waiting builds tolerance. It strengthens the emotional muscle that says, I can survive uncertainty. And uncertainty creates space. Space creates boredom. And boredom creates something powerful.
Gen X was bored, and boredom was not an emergency. When the brain is not externally stimulated, a network called the default mode network activates. It's associated with self-reflection, creativity, and identity formation. Without endless scrolling, that network had room to operate. Tara sits in her bedroom on a Saturday. Nothing on TV, no internet. So she writes lyrics, makes a mixtape, daydreams. Research from University of Central Lancashire suggests boredom increases creative output because the brain is forced to generate internal stimulation. Today, boredom lasts seconds. We extinguish it immediately. But what if boredom was never the enemy? What if it was rehearsal for imagination? Still, analog life wasn't just creative. It was risky.
Chris sees a flyer on a bulletin board. Local band looking for a guitarist. He shows up to a stranger's garage rehearsal. No background check, no profile history, no verification badge. Just instinct. When we interact face-to-face, we read micro-expressions, tone shifts, posture, subtle social data that builds intuition. Digital environments filter that out. And while modern tools increase safety in many ways, they can also reduce our tolerance for ambiguity. Risk tolerance develops through manageable exposure. Gen X didn't eliminate risk, they learned to regulate it. Would you attend something today without researching it first? Independence wasn't optional back then, it was assumed.
Gen X is often described as the latchkey generation. Many came home to empty houses. Kevin is 11. He unlocks the door, makes food, finishes homework. There's no location sharing, no instant parental reassurance. Psychologically, manageable autonomy builds competence. It strengthens internal soothing instead of external reassurance. Today, comfort is immediate, but when comfort is always available, resilience doesn't get exercised. Gen X wasn't stronger by design. They were simply less buffered, and that buffering changes how we experience failure.
Melissa trips during a class presentation. People laugh, and then the moment ends. No replay, no comment section, no viral archive. Repeated exposure to small embarrassment builds shame resilience. You survive it, and your nervous system learns it's not fatal. Today, mistakes can feel permanent. Digital memory doesn't forget. And when errors feel immortal, we avoid risk entirely. Do you think we're more afraid of being seen imperfect now? But the biggest difference might not be visibility, it might be pace.
Gen X lived in longer stretches of uninterrupted time. David rides his bike for hours. No tracking, no buzzing phone, no constant alerts. Modern neuroscience shows that frequent notifications keep the nervous system in low-grade sympathetic activation, a subtle fight or flight state. It's not dramatic stress, it's constant micro-stress. Analog life had silence built in. Silence allows the parasympathetic system, the calming system, to reset. Maybe Gen X didn't have fewer problems, maybe they had more recovery time. And here's the deeper tension. When friction disappears, so does training. So what do we do now?
This isn't about rejecting technology. It's about reintroducing friction intentionally. Try navigating somewhere without GPS once this week. Make one phone call instead of sending a text. Sit with boredom for 10 uninterrupted minutes. Delay responding, just slightly. These small acts retrain capacity. Gen X didn't build resilience because they were exceptional. They built it because life required participation. Maybe comfort made us efficient, but friction made them durable. The question isn't whether we should go backward, it's whether we're willing to practice strength again. If this perspective resonated with you, stay here. On this channel, we explore how psychology shapes generations and how we adapt without losing what makes us strong. Because moving forward doesn't mean removing friction. Sometimes it means choosing it. I'll see you in the next one.